Welcome back to another episode of the Career Ready Great Dane podcast. It's a podcast out of the Career and Professional Development Office, and I am Jessica, and I am here with an alum to talk about what life during and after UAlbany looks like, and I will let him introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Nathaniel Simons. I'm a 2023 graduate of the University at Albany. I studied business administration, communication, and international studies. I currently live in the Albany area and work for Deloitte in their government and public service consulting realm.
Okay, cool. So I'm just curious, going back to when you first arrived at UAlbany, what did you think you wanted to do career-wise, and how does that line up with what you're doing today?
When I came to UAlbany, my initial thought was that I would go into sports management. I've been a huge sports fan my whole life, and it seemed like a natural jump to go into any kind of sports management, whether that was within a conference or a marketing kind of area or work for a team. Wound up changing pretty significantly, but
Yeah. And so I guess what was the moment where you sort of switched gears and sort of your career path became a little bit clearer or changed entirely?
yeah, I was lucky enough to intern with a college hockey conference after my sophomore year, and it was a really great experience, but I figured out that wasn't the life for me. I kind of pivoted a little bit, and it wasn't anything to do with my courses or it was just a switch with career idea, and just worked out.
Yeah. So did you come in as an intended business major? So your major always stayed the same?
Yeah, exactly. So I was a direct admit to the business school, and I stuck with business administration all the way through. I concentrated in marketing and management, which
Okay.
is a pretty common concentration, and then wound up adding communication and international studies as minors to kind of get a little bit more breadth in my in the coursework.
Okay. So thinking and reflecting back at your time at UAlbany, who or what had the biggest impact on you professionally?
Professionally, I would say both my advisors in the School of Business and International Studies and Communication, they pushed me to take certain classes that fit my interest a little bit more and to study abroad, which was one of the most impactful experiences for me.
Okay.
I also worked in the Career and Professional Development Office with you
Yeah.
and had an incredible experience both getting to be a peer career advisor and helping other students out. And I had access to all of our great staff who helped me kind of find my path along.
We had another episode on study abroad. Can you just touch on that a little bit? Like, where did you go? What was that experience like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied abroad in Dublin, Ireland, and I actually did an internship through a program with SUNY Brockport. And because we're in the SUNY system, it provided easy access to jump into whatever programs were offered. It was a really great experience where I was able to work 4 days a week for an Irish recruitment firm and got a ton of time and ton of face time working with the staff from the firm and jumping into their daily lives. I lived with a couple other students and got to experience living in Dublin and traveling over across Ireland and across Europe a little bit, and yeah, it was a great experience.
Did you come into college knowing you wanted to study abroad at some point?
Yeah, definitely, and
Okay.
that's one of the main reasons I chose UAlbany, or one of the major reasons,
Yeah.
because coming here afforded me some flexibility with my coursework, afforded me some time to use all of the programs that the school offered and add on an international studies minor.
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely forward looking when I came to the university,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was definitely something that helped me choose the school.
And I think that forward-looking mentality is super helpful to plan out because if you're coming your first year, you have 4 years, and that feels like a long time, but it really goes by quickly. I'm sure you can attest to that. So, also reflecting back on your time at UAlbany, what skills did you gain that you didn't realize would matter so much now, especially that you're in the professional world?
I didn't realize how much the soft skills, interacting with my peers and professors and everyone coming into the career office, I didn't realize how much of an impact that would make on me.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day, whether it's interacting with the client or interacting with the rest of my project team, I use those soft skills, whether it's just brainstorming and working as a team
Mm-hmm.
or presenting to a client some of our ideas. Those are things I picked up through my coursework, through working on campus, and I didn't realize how impactful those would be. We obviously learned a lot of hard skills like through accounting courses or marketing courses, but even within those and all of our management courses, we're constantly working with our classmates, and I think that may have helped me the most.
Okay. Is there any, I know we talked about sort of forward thinking, but is there anything you wished you had done earlier or something you wish you had just done while you were here that would have helped in your career development or just your experience as a college student?
I think taking even more of a wide range of courses would have been helpful. So in my current field, I think taking a political science or political theory course may have been helpful just to have a little bit more of an idea earlier on what the political system looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been impactful for government public service consulting. I also just enjoy learning and just seeing what there is to see. So I think taking some random courses here or there would have been helpful.
Yeah. Yep. So let's talk about, you are a senior here at UAlbany. You know the next step is landing your first full-time role. Walk us through that process. What did it look like and how long did it take?
Yeah, for me, I'm not sure if this is a unique situation, but I started feeling that pressure around the fall of my senior year, so 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically was looking all over the job boards, whether that was Handshake or Indeed or LinkedIn, and trying to figure out what might make sense for me. I had interned with the New York State Department of Labor the summer before and had continued that through the fall and was interested in the area, but wasn't sure if state service was the right fit for me. So looking all over job boards, I applied to a whole bunch of jobs, interviewed with Deloitte, and wound up not getting my first position.
Oh.
I found out in December that I didn't get the role,
Mm-hmm.
but in January of 23, talking with the recruiters and just making sure I stayed in touch with them, they pointed me to another role that they thought I might be a good fit for. Interviewed again in March, and at the March or February, and at the end of March, I received my offer.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a relief before graduation, before ending my study abroad program, that I had a role to begin in the fall.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's got to be a relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad Deloitte reached back out and you stayed in contact, because sometimes you apply, you don't get it, and you don't know why, and you don't hear back again. So it's good that they sort of said, I'm prompting you towards this role. I think it'd be a better fit. So that's good that they did that. I'm glad it worked out. So what do you think during that second interview process, what stood out about you that you think landed that role?
I think having more of a complete internship experience was helpful. At the point where I first interviewed, I was partway through the internship, and even though it was still with my the same day-to-day work,
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a more clear view of what I might want to do going down the line, and it provided for a more definitive interview rather than an I think or it might be
Mhm.
kind of feeling. So I think being more definitive, having a little bit more of a complete experience was really helpful. Having the international experience was also really helpful. So I was able to add on to the experience that I had already had interning in the U.S. So
Yeah.
it's just a combination of my experience that I had gained over the last few months in between the two interviews was really helpful.
So clarity is key, right?
Totally agree.
Okay. And can you just tell us, now that you've been in your role for a few years, what does a typical day look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So
And what's your official title?
I'm a project delivery senior analyst, so it's a consultant equivalent, just in a different talent model,
Okay.
which kind of separates different types of contracts within the firm. So a day in the life would be, I start work around between 8 and 9, and depending on the day, I could have meetings back to back to back to back,
Oh.
depending on whether there's internal types of initiatives that I'm working on, or if there are client meetings, or if I have to prep. I'm on a training and change management team, so we might have a course that runs the whole day that I'm helping to facilitate or just supporting.
Mm-hmm.
I could also have a pretty open day where I can work on independent work for the project or for, again, different initiatives for the firm. But it does vary day to day, and I try to be very organized with my calendar to figure out what I'm going to need to do on Monday that'll help me down the road on Thursday.
Mm.
Just thinking about my time and how I can make sure to optimize it, because there aren't enough hours to do some of the things we need to do.
Yeah. Okay. So time management, it sounds like, and even public speaking. Like, what do you think are some, because I see students often that are interested in consulting. So what do you think are some of the skills that you need to do a good job in a consulting kind of role?
One thing that I'm really working on and that my team has been emphasizing for our entire program is executive presence,
Mm.
being confident in your own shoes, being authentic, well, I would say confidence is probably the biggest one. Noticing your tics, noticing your fidgets and everything. That is something, if you can work on that as early as possible, I think that's one of the most impactful things. No matter where you are in consulting, whether that's as a data scientist or on a training team,
Mm-hmm.
you will be working with clients no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if it's a more junior role,
Mm-hmm.
you're still going to work your way up, and everything leads back to the client, leads back to supporting the mission that you're contracted for. So if you can build up that confidence, build up that executive presence where you can have a sense of trust with your client and with the rest of your project team, I think that is extremely impactful.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that advice. So, your early career, what sort of surprised you most about transitioning from college to full-time work?
The amount of time I had after work
Mm.
through 16 years of school, something like that.
Yeah.
I felt like I always had homework or a practice or something after I was done with school, so it was never really done, whether it was to study or write a paper, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Once I'm done with work, unless it's a significantly long work day, I'm done and able to have some free time.
Yeah. So, what do you like to do with that free time?
Yeah, so I live in downtown Albany now, and especially as we get into summer months, I love walking around, just getting to see the city. Washington Park is so beautiful, and just getting to see the surrounding areas. I also play in a hockey league usually once a week, especially in the winter, and we'll have a summer league as well. So getting to be active and just explore is probably my favorite thing.
And that's cool that you've kept the hockey up. Like, even though you didn't move into that as a career, it's good that you're still sort of doing it as a hobby outside of work.
Yeah, exactly. And making sure you have a hobby, I think, is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So you don't feel stagnant.
Yeah, and your identity isn't wrapped up in just your career or your job. You know, there's other things outside of work. So now that you're post-grad, what advice would you give current UAlbany students who may or may not be thinking about their career development? We see many students who maybe they're graduating and they haven't been thinking about their job prospects since the fall. Maybe they're just starting to think about it, or maybe they'll worry about it after graduation. But really, any year of student, what advice do you have for them?
I think there are two things I'd point current students to. One would be using your network. You've been in school for 3, 4, however many years, or been at UAlbany, I should say. Using the network that you've built up, whether it's a freshman seminar or your capstone for your senior year, using the resources around you is going to help you out so much.
Yeah, I agree, because I think, students are thinking about networks, and some come into UAlbany with some, maybe based on like their parents or their family members, and some feel like they don't have any. But if you've participated in student orgs, it's like connect with those other members of the student org. Or if you did an internship, connect and stay in touch with your supervisor or the folks that you met during your internship. Faculty, connect with them. So yeah, I think it's really important that you do have a network, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you just said, Jessica, faculty, they are there, yes, to teach you, but also to be a support. And if you have any questions, they are so happy to just help you out with what you need, be a reference. And it's absolutely so helpful to use that resource.
Yeah.
I would say the second part of my recommendation would be to use the opportunities you have on campus as well. So whether that's the career office or all of the fairs or just being involved in student organizations, opportunities pop up all the time, whether it's from alumni or current students or your staff that are supporting or volunteers. There are so many opportunities around that the school offers, that organizations offer, that you might not know that are out there.
Yeah, at a university of this size, it almost feels overwhelming, the amount of opportunities. And I find it surprising when students feel like they don't feel like there's a lot. So I think there's a gap in like the knowledge of knowing what resources are available, and maybe having the ability to like ask, or the ability to just take the initiative to like reach out and start somewhere, even if you don't have all the answers.
Yeah, definitely. And it is hard to figure out and narrow down what you might want to take a look at because, like you said, there are tons of opportunities out there. Narrowing down the specific events that might be useful to you, or if you have a really broad range of interests, there could be a ton of different things that you should go to.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a tricky piece, but I would absolutely recommend you use the resources that are given to you both for free and with maybe a little bit of effort. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. All right. So in closing, what's one thing you miss at UAlbany and one thing you do not miss?
I'll start with what I don't miss.
Okay.
I don't miss the studying in the homework, and I do have to study a bit for my role just to make sure my current role, just so I know what's coming. I know I'm up to date on everything we need for a week or for a session, but the everyday homework kind of situation is not there anymore, which I really appreciate. Mm-hmm. One thing I do miss is being in classes and being around my friends and my peers and teachers and colleagues
Yeah.
who I worked with for 2, 3, 4 years. I do miss that a lot, and I would emphasize keep up those networks and make sure you stay in touch. I'm working on that. I'm definitely not great at it, but it's something that will help keep your social circle alive and well. And I think these people make a big impact on your lives, and they will be there for a long time.
Yeah. I think the social and the network piece take effort. I think not that it doesn't take effort while you're a student, but with so many students just like here, it's a bit more convenient. So, yeah, it does take effort to keep up. So, that is true. Okay. Thank you so much for all of your advice, all of your information. Super helpful. Is there anything we didn't cover that you feel like you want just as a last?
I would just emphasize again, use the resources that are afforded to you. You're coming to school not just to learn, but to help grow your career and help figure out what's on the other side. Use what the university offers. We come from a huge school with so many opportunities, and there are so many things you can dip your toes into and figure out what might be interesting to you down the line. And yeah, I would say that was one of the most helpful things for me. So I'd really recommend
Yeah.
taking a look at that.
Great. Thanks again for your time and being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And that's another episode of the Career Ready Great Dane podcast. Please, if you want, rate and follow. We are on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or you can go to the website.